Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a timeline that is literally going to blur the lines between reality and, well, something entirely unexplainable. We are looking at a terrifying incident from just last fall in Chicago. Our guy's Ethan, a 24-year-old freelance photographer who experienced something so chilling it completely rewrites everything we assume about analog media. We're going to break down this timeline piece by piece to understand exactly how a totally mundane afternoon unraveled into an absolute nightmare.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Think about the one absolute rule of physical media. Printed photos don't change. It's basically a fundamental law of physics, right? You snap a picture and that moment is frozen. It's static, a permanent record of the past. I want you to keep this phrase in the back of your mind as we go through this explainer, because the absolute mental gymnastics Ethan goes through stems entirely from this one unquestionable assumption getting violently ripped away. Seriously, what happens when a frozen moment decides to unfreeze?
All right, part one, the setup. So it's just an innocent Saturday. Ethan's a photographer, and like a lot of creatives, he's got this habit of hitting up local thrift stores for vintage gear. It's all about the thrill of the hunt. Let's walk through how fast this actually escalated. Saturday afternoon, he's at a normal Goodwill in Lincoln Park. Finds a 1980s Polaroid one-step in a dusty bin. $10. Honestly, a huge steal. Fast forward to later that day, he's back at his apartment, pops open the film door, and here's where things get weird. There is exactly one unexposed photo left in this cartridge that has been sitting in the dark for decades. Captivated by the pure novelty of it, he points the lens at his cat sleeping on the rug, and he presses the shutter. Click. Whirr. 60 seconds later, he's watching the chemical layers develop, waiting for that murky gray cloud to turn into his cat.
But bringing us to section 2, the anomaly. It wasn't his cat. As those gray clouds on that little square began to clear, Ethan's stomach instantly dropped.
The contrast here is just absolutely charring. He expected a simple, cozy picture of his cat, just testing out the vintage gear. But the reality? The film spits out an image of a dimly lit, cramped room. Sitting right in the middle is a cheap wooden chair, and in that chair is a man with a completely blurred-out, distorted face. Just a smudge. But the detail that'll literally give you goosebumps? The background, the molding on the walls, the specific window frame, it was an exact, perfect match of Ethan's own bedroom. This wasn't just some creepy vintage photo, it was a creepy photo occupying his actual physical space.
So what does this all mean? Well, your brain will do incredible gymnastics to protect you from panic, double exposure, old film defect. Ethan desperately tries to rationalize it. Maybe whoever owned the camera before took a shot of a similar room years ago, and the film just double exposed over his dark bedroom. Just a glitch, or a prank, right? Ethan actually laughs off the unease, tosses the Polaroid on his desk, and, incredibly, goes to sleep. He chose logic.
But logic only works if the rules of reality actually apply. Moving to part 3, the escalation. The true horror of this explainer doesn't even hit in the middle of the night. It happens the next morning, in broad daylight, right before Ethan's about to leave for his day job. He looks at his desk, and his entire worldview just shatters. Check out this impossible progression. Step 1, when the photo was first taken, the blurred man was sitting in the chair. But step 2, it's the next morning, and the photo has physically changed. The man is now standing by the cracked open bedroom door. Ethan's heart is pounding. He literally uses his iPhone to take a digital picture of the Polaroid, a timestamp basically, to prove to himself he's not losing his mind. Then, he goes to work. When he gets back that night, we hit step 3. The man has moved again. He's out of the bedroom, standing at the far end of the hallway. And as Ethan is staring at this tiny square, watching it shift in real time, we hit step 4. The figure is now standing directly outside Ethan's actual bedroom door, its blurred hand reaching for the doorknob. The static image is alive.
To put this into perspective, here is the detail that turns this into a terrifying countdown. Notice the vintage clock hanging on the hallway wall in the background of the Polaroid. The hands on that clock are stopped dead at 8:15. But when Ethan checks the real time on his actual phone, right there in his apartment, it's 7:45 p.m. So this photo isn't just a live feed, it's a prophecy. It is counting down to a specific event that is going to happen in exactly 30 minutes. This entity has a destination, and it has a scheduled time of arrival.
And that brings us to section 4, the climax. The tension here is just off the charts. Ethan is trapped in his bedroom holding a photograph that is literally predicting a home invasion from something that shouldn't even exist.
And right as he's watching the blurred man reach for the doorknob in the picture, the lights in the entire apartment go totally, completely black. Breathing heavily, completely engulfed in darkness, Ethan fumbles for his phone. He flicks on the flashlight, aims the beam straight down at the Polaroid shaking in his hand. The chair and the photo? Empty. The hallway? Empty. The man was completely gone from the frame. The one tiny sliver of comfort he had, knowing where this thing was by looking at the picture, was gone. It wasn't trapped in the film anymore.
But it did leave a mark. Down on the white border at the bottom of the Polaroid, the part you hold while you wait for it to develop, fresh, dark ink had literally bled right through the plastic. And written in this jagged, dark scrawl was just one sentence: "Thanks for letting me out." The physical world and the world inside that camera had completely breached.
And this brilliantly illustrates the exact moment the timelines converge. 8:15. Ethan slowly pulls his phone's flashlight away from the Polaroid, catching his breath, and points the beam toward his physical bedroom door. The door that he had shut super tight when he walked in. It is now slowly, silently creaking inward. And in that exact second, out in the pitch-black living room, his phone screen lights up. The digital clock strikes exactly 8:15 p.m.
The barrier was totally broken. So we're left with this absolutely chilling thought. If that single piece of unexposed Polaroid film captured an entity that had been trapped inside the camera for decades, just waiting in the dark, who or what exactly did Ethan let into his apartment at 8:15 p.m.? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.